Hey, welcome to today's video. We are keeping this simple and fast. This is going to be me talking for like 2 hours, probably, about every component possible in the PC world. This is a video trying to be down to earth, and it's trying to be easy to understand for those that are coming from console, coming to PC, or that are new to PC and they want to make the correct decision on some parts. If you don't care about the why and you don't care about how I selected the products and you just want some standard builds to get you going, there's a video on screen now which are 5 to 6 really good builds for entry-level people, mid-level people, high-end, and content creation, and a way to customize it to fit your budget. Now I'm going to go onto Amazon and I'm going to do some online shopping to show you exactly what parts to pick and why. And again, use the bar along the bottom to jump from section to section. As always, if you enjoyed the video and you found this helpful, you can leave a like and a comment if you did, leave a dislike if you didn't, tell me why. You can join the Discord in the description. You can use my Amazon affiliate link. Maybe you decided on a certain build and you want to give me a small kickback by using an affiliate link, or you want to watch live on Twitch and subscribe, or you want to support the YouTube channel and hit the join button. Tons of ways to support me. Let's get into it now because it's going to be a bit of a long one. Let's get into everything to do with PC. First on the list is going to be your budget. So you're setting off and you're building a PC. You've decided you're jumping into the world of PC and you've got a budget. Let's keep it simple. I can't tell you what your budget is. That is something that you've decided. It's the amount of money you've saved, the amount of money you're willing to put in. But I can tell you this. With knowledge comes understanding the budget. So if you have £1,000 saved up, you might think, okay, I've got £1,000, but what does that get me? Hopefully, by the end of this video, you might understand that actually £600 is the PC I need for my usage, or, oh, actually, for £200 more, I could get a killer PC that can do way more than I was expecting. So you might have a rough idea in your mind of how much you want to spend, but that can fluctuate, obviously, depending on how much money you've got, or just knowledge. So the budget is set by you, but do bear in mind to save some money for peripherals, which we'll talk about. And generally, don't blow every single penny you've got on a PC. You can make compromises and we'll talk about that. Number 2 is going to be your use case. So what on earth do you actually want to do with your PC? That is, again, something that's going to be coming down to you. But do bear in mind, this is where I think I can maybe give something that the big tech YouTubers don't, kind of like my MSI video that did really well. Thanks for that as well, that motherboard video. The big tech YouTubers often will just tell you, this is the best processor, this is the best graphics card, this is the cheapest, this is the best bang for the buck. But they're not explaining, well, what do you actually want to do with your PC and what should you pick based off that? So let's give some rough ideas. If you want to video edit, you're going to need a couple things, aren't you? You're going to need a stronger CPU. You're probably going to want a graphics card that's NVIDIA enabled, as most editing programs use CUDA cores, which NVIDIA has. You're probably going to want a bit more storage as well. Now, if you don't want to do that, and you just want to play games, you can save a little bit. You can get a more powerful graphics card, as that's the main component that's going to drive that visual quality. You may be able to get away with a slightly lesser CPU. You might not need a all-singing, all-dancing 12-core powered CPU just to play games. So depending on what you want to do is going to change drastically the outcome of your build. That's something to bear in mind. Also to note, if you're just coming from the Xbox and you're thinking, well, I don't really know what I want to do, that's great, because that's what I did when I first built my PC. When I first built my PC, I wasn't sure what type of games I was going to play. I wasn't sure if I was even going to enjoy it. So the thing from moving to the console, from the console to the PC is, yes, you're at a desk, you're a bit more rigid, the games are different, the player environment's different, everything's a little bit different compared to console, and you might really like that, or you might not like that at all. So when you're looking at your use case and when you're looking at your budget, bear in mind that if you're brand new to PC, maybe don't go completely top end. Because what I did was I set a fair budget for my very first computer, and it allowed me to play some of the games I was looking forward to playing, like StarCraft, like DayZ. But I didn't blow the budget because I wasn't sure if I was actually going to enjoy the experience, because it is very different. Also to note, if you are moving from console to PC, give it some time. I hated it at the start, stuck at your desk, awkward setup, couldn't really use the keyboard. I was getting killed by people that I thought, well, if I was using a controller, you know, I could have killed him. So don't be worried, man. If you want to play PC and use a controller, plug a controller in. And if that's all you ever do, that's great. There's no rules. And if you want to play with keyboard for an hour a day and practice and then improve a little bit, but then you're getting a bit frustrated and you want to chill out with the controller, you can do that. So the point is, yes, you can choose hardware, you can choose the certain type of game you want to play, you can do all of this, but ultimately, if you're not enjoying it, it's going to be a waste of money. So I'm here to try and help the experience be more enjoyable for you. If you're not sure what type of game you want to play, and you just kind of want to dabble in a huge variety of games, you might want to get a sort of entry-level, mid-level PC that in a couple of years' time, after you've played PC for a couple years, you can think to yourself, I actually know what I want to do now. I want to stream, I want to do some video editing. Actually, I want to just play this certain game. There's a certain one type of game that I love, and that's all I ever play. And then you can have a look at specific benchmarks for that game and pick products that work and excel in that game. Because different products work differently in games. It's kind of not like console. A graphics card and a processor might do phenomenal in Forza 4 or something. They might not do so well in DayZ, right? So each game has a different use case, so the more you play, you'll get to know that. So again, initial advice is, if you're really not sure what your use case is going to be, don't go super high end. Build an overall PC that can do it, kind of do everything okay, and then maybe later down the years you can upgrade and, you know, really go for that specific thing that you know you now want to do. So next is going to be sort of user reviews. There's going to be a ton of user reviews like myself online that review a product, that review a CPU, that review a graphics card. And when you're looking around on the internet and you're thinking, okay, this is the thing I've decided on, and then you go to look at a review of it, you can be put off it or sold on it very easily. Do bear in mind that there is a lot of people that play PC that have no idea what they're talking about, and they have it in a hot room, no airflow, they've got the cheap power supply, they've got the wrong components tied together, and all of a sudden their £900 RTX 3080 is black screening, and they're on the forums telling people that it's a bad brand, that the fan controller's bad, that I would never touch this brand or do that. And most of the time they're just a user that doesn't really know what they're doing. Now, if every single review is bad, maybe there's something in it. But just be wary that whatever you look up online, you're going to find problems. Meaning, if you decide, okay, this is the processor I want to buy. I want to buy an Intel i5 with this certain type. And you look up that online and you type in Intel i5 problems. Guess what you're going to find? A load of problems. So it's kind of, you just got to be wary that, yes, reviews are helpful. Reviews can tip you one way or the other, but they can also be misleading. So generally what I like to do is when I'm thinking about purchasing a product, I like to get a roundup of all of the people's opinions of it and then decide, okay, this is the one for me. But just don't look up problems, because you're going to find problems and then you're going to convince yourself that it's bad. My Zotac graphics card apparently is the worst graphics card in the world. This is going to be a long video, but this is for people that actually want to gain some knowledge, because I've watched tech videos for so many hours and hours and hours that I feel like I should probably dish out this information. So first of all, we're now using Amazon. This is just because everyone has Amazon. They've got a good return policy. So if anything goes wrong, they just return it and refund it, and it's a good website to buy PC parts on, in my opinion. There are obviously other ones available, but I thought I'd just do Amazon because it's, you know, everyone knows the UI layout, etc. So the first thing I want to talk about is peripherals. So when a big tech YouTuber talks about like the budget you've got, and they talk about You know, oh, what should you spend on your processor? What should you spend on your graphics card? All of this stuff, right? They often tell you to spend all of your budget on the PC. You've got £1,000. This is exactly what you can get for £1,000. But that's not factoring in your peripherals, right? It's just not. And I know some people might have separate budgets for that, and that's great, but a lot of the time people don't. So I'll tell you, when I moved from console to PC, it was when Skyrim was released. When Skyrim was released, everybody that I knew was playing it on the couch, in bed, chilling out, playing Skyrim with the controller. They're having a great time. I just moved to PC. I didn't know how to type really. I didn't really use a PC that much. My hands would get sore from typing. I had an awful chair, awful setup, and I just generally didn't enjoy playing it. I would play for like half an hour and an hour, and although the game looked better visually, I could mod the game. There was tools to sort out the UI. You know, there was all these kind of things you could do on Skyrim that were better, and when I was enjoying it, I was like, this is so good. But I'd quickly get annoyed at my peripherals, my scenario that I was in, and I ended up coming off the game. So when you have a look at sort of, you know, what you want to spend, sort of actually setting something aside to buy some peripherals. So the two main things you're going to look at, or I guess three main things, are going to be keyboard, mouse, and maybe like a mouse pad. So let's jump into some mice. The first one is the glorious Model D. It's from PC Master Race. That's the thing that I bought. It's lightweight, it's got a decent cable, it doesn't drag, it's got good software as well. And the reason I say you should save some money for some peripherals is, again, you don't want to be sat with a brand new PC and just hating every second because you're on some Dell keyboard, right? But if you're brand new to PC and you're just looking for, like, I don't know anything, I just want to buy some stuff that's decent and works, here's some ideas. You have a Cooler Master Mouse MM530, decent software, slightly different ergonomics. All of these, again, lightweight, good DPI, good control, decent options. They've got a little bit of rough material on the side for a bit more grip if that's something you like. The Razer Viper Mini, this is a really popular product. I do actually recommend Razer for mice. That's why they sort of got known. Their mouse game is pretty good. Keyboard-wise, headset-wise, it's a bit like Beats by Dr. Dre. They're not bad, but they're just overpriced. There are better options out there. But for the mouse, Razer Viper Mini and the Razer Viper are decent options. If you want to talk about wireless and wired, wireless, honestly, these days is actually much better. Back in, like, when I used to play PC like 10 years ago, Bluetooth and wireless was very much like disconnection, lag. You wouldn't ever buy a wireless mouse these days. Wireless mice aren't that bad. So don't be too panicky. If you really want a wireless mouse, don't fret over it. You're not going to click and it's not going to lag 10 minutes later and have an input. They're okay. I would still recommend wired, but that's just me being a boomer. You also have the SteelSeries Rival 110. This is a bit more expensive. SteelSeries are a bit more of a premium brand. I wouldn't go too expensive on the mouse. At the end of the day, it's not going to make you a god tier player or a rubbish player, but do get one that's comfortable. You're going to be holding it a lot, so, you know, that's a decent little option, the Rival 110. This is a pretty steady and stable mouse that people know and love. It's the Logitech G203. This is like a really good mouse. It's 40 quid. Yeah, it's not all singing, all dancing. It just does what it says. It's robust, it lasts, decent options, and they come in different colours as well. Similarly, you have the SteelSeries Rival 3. This is a pretty good mouse. This is one that I used for a long time. I used the SteelSeries, I think it was like an older Rival model. These are really decent. For 30 quid, whack that down. You're not going to go too far wrong. It's not like when you buy a cheap mouse, it's not going to scroll or it's not going to, you know, track well. You're just paying for different shapes, different lightweight factors, different software. SteelSeries is really good. Next, you've also got this, which is like, quote now, this is, quote, the GG mouse. It does look very boring, doesn't it? but it's meant to be phenomenal. So if you really want to stretch your budget and you really want to go for like pure ergonomics sort of end game mouse, this is the end game Gear XM1, but it's a lot of money. I would still recommend like the Glorious Model D, the Logitech, or the Steel series, but those are some options. You can always join a deals site like Hot UK Deals. You sign in, you register, and you can set keywords up, and then you will get pinged when there's a sale. So if I was to type in a mouse here, I would get pinged every single time there is a sale. For example, right now, the Glorious Model D, instead of it being 50 quid, is 37 quid. And the Logitech Pro, instead of it being 130, is actually £89. And then also you get some eBay deals pop up. So these are some decent things. These are how you can find a few deals out and save a little bit, right? So this is 34 quid. Would highly recommend this. Really, really good mouse. I've got it right here. I've got the white version. So that is also how you can save a bit. You don't have to rush out and buy everything immediately. Just wait for a sale. They're always popping up. Next, you're going to want a mouse mat, aren't you? You're going to want a mouse pad. So I have a massive cloth mouse pad. Your main decision is going to be, do you want a hard mouse mat or a cloth one? Basically, the hard mouse mats can glide better, and some people do much prefer a hard mouse pad. I personally absolutely hate it, but the thing to note is you might enjoy it, so that's up to you. But I will say that a hard mouse pad does wear out the bottom of your feet a lot, obviously because they're slightly rugged and hard. So personally, I would always go for a cloth mouse pad. It's like the gaming, like the chair where you sit in does make a big difference, right? But it's don't go spending £500 on a gaming chair. When I bought this chair, it was £200. It's been about 8 years. There's been COVID, and now they're about £500-600. Wouldn't recommend. I'd recommend just getting a nice office chair at that price. Like, don't buy a £500 gaming chair unless you're just swimming in money. Right, next up for the peripheral, you've got your mouse pad, you've got your mouse, you need a keyboard. Now, obviously, I'd still do recommend buying a controller, because some games function better on controllers, like driving games. Sometimes you just want to chill out, big picture mode, put it on your TV, sit back, play on a controller, because don't forget, with a PC, you can play it exactly like an Xbox. So I do recommend picking up a wired Xbox controller. This is a wireless one, works with Bluetooth, which my motherboard has. It's the one for the Series X. The triggers are really nice on it. It's for like FIFA and driving games. Do recommend that. You've probably got one from an Xbox, like a 360 that you can plug in, so you could save yourself some money there. Next, you're going to be looking at your keyboard, and you're going to be trying to figure out, well, what do I want to spend on a keyboard? So this is where you're going to spend most of your time, and take it from me, who's spent like 10 years on PC. Having a good keyboard does make a massive difference. Your hands don't get as sore, you can play for longer, they react better. Some have different noises, some have different lighting styles, some have different looks, different key layouts. There's all of that stuff going on. So you're looking to get into buying a keyboard and you're not exactly sure where to start, what switch, how much to spend. Do I want a custom one? Do I want just one off Amazon? I don't know. So here are some recommendations, okay? This is the keyboard I have right here. I have a review on my YouTube channels. Electrocapacitive. Now what that means is effectively it feels like a rubber dome, but it's still a mechanical switch. They're quiet, they don't annoy you with the massive clicky noises. Let me tell you, Cherry MX Blue are the ones that make the clicky noise that you probably hear. It sounds cool. I get it. They are kind of loud at night, and honestly, after listening to my own keyboard for like 8 years, I was so done with the noise. I know. It has RGB, it's got all of the lighting, it's matte white, it's incredibly light to type on, it's built well, it has a detachable cable if in the future I want to build a fancy cable. This was what I wanted. Okay, so you're probably not looking to go and spend $150 on a keyboard, so let's keep things simple. You have two types of keyboard which you can see. You have ones like this, which don't have a number pad on. You see here, it doesn't have a number pad on. This has a number pad missing. but it has the insert keys, and then you have like a full-size keyboard. Personally would get a keyboard that has function keys at the top row, just because there are games like strategy games that do actually use these keys, and yes, it looks cool to have a really small keyboard, but ultimately it's annoying for people that actually play games. I would recommend, yeah, you can get rid of the number pad to save some space, but I would get a keyboard that has function keys. I'm going to get a bit nerdy here, but I'm giving you all the information I've ever learned. Keyboards have an activation force. This is the force required to push the switch down. So this little switch here is what the keyboard is in. The force you push down with, some require more force, some require less force. So that's the switch. The switch is basically the thing that activates the key. The main brand is called Cherry MX. You have Cherry MX Blue, which is the click one. Cherry MX Browns, which is kind of the softer one. Cherry MX Red, which are called like the gamery one. They're kind of like easier to press, make a slight more noise. And yeah, that's kind of how it's going. So here are some recommendations for keyboards if you're just interested. Again, some people will disagree. I'm not going to get into too much detail why I recommend them. It's just like, if you want to purchase these products, you're not going to go too far wrong. I would recommend, honestly, spending no more than $150 on a keyboard, but I would recommend spending $50 to $100. And £100 sounds like a lot for a keyboard, but when you're using it, and these things last for like 8 years, plus, you know, they can last forever basically. When you're using a keyboard all the time, it does make a huge difference. So this is like a very, very entry level one. It's Red Dragon. It's a Red Dragon keyboard. You can choose the RGB variant or the single color. I would personally, if you're going down this route and you just want the cheapest one, you can just get the single color and set it to a color you like. These have kind of quote custom mechanical switches. They're not Cherry MX, but this is like the budget option. It works fine. Let me tell you this, putting a fancy keyboard, say like this one, having like a fancy keyboard and playing on a 50 quid keyboard, you're not suddenly gonna become a god tier gamer. It's more about comfort and making sure it works. Stuff like this works. You're going to have no problems. You put a professional player on a keyboard like this, he's still going to whoop your ass. It's not like the keyboard is making you a better player. It's just sturdiness, you know, longevity, etc. So a Red Dragon keyboard off Amazon is pretty decent. Next, you have a Razer keyboard. People are going to go, don't ever recommend a Razer keyboard. They're so stupidly expensive. They have crap build quality. Listen, I get it, but the point is, it's a reputable brand. People know it. This is an option as like a wireless keyboard, if that's something that floats your boat. You also have a variety of Razer keyboards, and I'm not saying go out and rush out and buy one, but the thing is, yes, they are a look. People do like the Razer keyboards, and they do have decent switches. There are ones like this which are kind of honestly pretty cool. They're like all matte white with a certain type of switch, like an orange switch, which are more tactile and they're not quite as clicky as the blue. You know, I know people like to organize the peripherals together, so it is a thing that you could do. I know this is like unnecessary, but it does make a difference. You know, if you want to enjoy yourself, you could buy a 50 quid white headset, 50 quid white mouse, and then the 99 quid keyboard, and you'll have a great time. People will tell you don't buy Razer, it absolutely sucks, but honestly, they're fine. Yes, they're not the world's best keyboard, but you're not going to get on this keyboard and be like, bro, this sucks. It's going to be fantastic. You're going to really enjoy it. Don't be too afraid of buying something that people say suck, because it's going to be all right. So these, again, the blue switches are the clicky ones. You have like green and orange. You can sort of go on YouTube and have a look at the switches if you're really interested, but you're not going to go too far wrong here. Again, that £50 to £100 is kind of where everything sits. Above that are like the niche brands like mine that I own. The upper tier of like, here's a standard keyboard, but they're built phenomenal and they just work really, really well. There's no fancy RGB. Yes, you can get RGB on them, but you can see down here the brands, they're representing NIS as well. A Philco keyboard, Like you can choose the switch, so you can have the click ones, you can have the silent red ones, the sort of mushier brown ones, and then you can have like the black ones. Again, if you're not sure what these are, you can just Google them and listen to them. But a Philco one is very good. Now you don't need a £125 one, so you know DAS keyboard's pretty good. If you want a cheaper option with more customization, PC Gaming Master Race has this. This is probably the one I'd recommend, just because for price and customization, you're getting a lot for your money. You can choose black or white. If you go to the full-size one or the 10 keyless one, you can do that. You can also customize this till your heart's content. I'll see if we can do that now, if I can remember where you do it. So if you customize it, you can pick the keyboard size, like, okay, I just want ones with function keys but no number pads. Let's pick a 10 keyless one. You can go for, like, there's a ton of switches, right? You're probably like baffled. Well, what do I want? If you're just going to Google them, you're not going to go too far wrong. If you want to get the Gator on blacks, that's like a steady choice. Or you can get the clicky blues. So you go for the Gator on blacks. Pick your keys. Oh, I want like white keys. That's fine. Select those. Do I want them to be a bit mushier and quiet? Do I want to put some like little rubber rings on the keys to make them quiet? Probably not, so no. And then they build your keyboard and they send it you. So you can't go too far wrong there. That's probably what I'd do. Speaking of nice brands, here's one, DAS keyboard. These are a little bit expensive, to be honest, and they're kind of like artsy fartsy brands. Like you can buy ones that don't have any letters on. I don't know why you do that, but some people do. But they are a really solid brand. That's why I'm putting them up there, because I think a lot of people just want to know what they're buying works. Keyboard that I recommend is a Ducky keyboard. There's tons of different ones. Again, don't go too expensive on your keyboard. People will absolutely make the most unreal keyboards possible, and it's just a flex. It doesn't mean anything. Again, £50 to £100 is probably what you should be spending, but a Ducky, like a Ducky Shine, is another reputable sort of brand. The keyboard I used for like 10 years, which goes back to ignoring reviews, is an MK80. I punched this thing, I smashed this thing. I've spilled Diet Coke on it, I've spilled everything on it, right? And it still works. An MK80 apparently is like 3-star, not very good. This thing is an absolute tank. So the Q-Pad mechanical keyboards I can recommend. People will say they're awful, but honestly, I used mine for 10 years. It was absolutely perfect. You also have Corsair as well, a K60. This one is pretty decent. This is another one I'd probably lean towards. It's got the switches that you want. It's got the RGB. It's decent little keyboard. You're not gonna go too far wrong with these things. And then also there is the steady Logitech G Pro mechanical, £100. It's got lights. It's got either the clicky switches that you want, the tactile sort of browns and reds. It's got these things. And again, you can mix and match that with other Logitech gear if that's where you want to go. But the thing I'm saying is, don't go. They're all reputable brands out there, like DAS Keyboard, like Philco, like Ducky Shines. Yeah, they are really good. But if you're just getting into PC, I would recommend probably spending around 50 to 100, getting a keyboard that doesn't suck, and then go in maybe a few years down the line. Okay, I like this keyboard, but I want it to have more keys, less keys, or different switches. So this is always my advice. Don't buy the super high-end stuff immediately, because you're not even going to know the difference between a good and a bad product when you first come to PC. I'll just be honest with you. So just get something around the 50 to 100 range from a reputable brand and enjoy it. For example, if I'd gone out and bought this as my first ever keyboard, I'd have probably been like, yeah, okay, it's like pretty cool, I guess. But having played on another keyboard for like 8 years and then finally upgraded to like, quote, the end game GG stuff, I realized what it was. So that is some information about keyboards. If that helps you, hopefully that helps you. That's kind of your peripherals. I feel like that. Now we'll get into some actual PC hardware.